She stormed into my room, tore her clothes off, and ordered me to obey the human outpost drifted quietly at the edge of the Orion Rift, a lonely structure of steel and glass floating between distant stars. Most of the galaxy did not even know it existed. That was how humans liked it. The outpost was a listening post, a place to watch, learn, and stay ready for anything the unknown might send. Elias Carter stood inside his small room, staring at a glowing screen filled with long lines of numbers. He was not a soldier. He was not a hero. He was a systems officer, trained to read signals, fix broken machines, and keep the station alive when things went wrong. The room was simple. A narrow bed, a small desk, a window that looked out into endless space. Elias often found comfort in that view. The stars reminded him that even when he felt small, he was part of something much bigger. That night, the station was quiet. Too quiet. Beck still hard. A soft warning sound echoed through the halls, but it was not loud enough to be an alarm. Elias frowned and leaned closer to his screen. The sensors were picking up strange movement near the station. Something fast. Something unknown. Before he could reach for his communicator, the door to his room slid open with a sharp hiss. A tall figure stepped inside. She was not human. Her skin shimmered like deep water under moonlight, marked with faint lines that moved slowly across her arms and face, like living symbols. Her eyes were bright and sharp, filled with fear and command at the same time. She wore a form of armor that looked more like flowing metal than solid plates, and it shifted softly as she moved. Elias froze. No alien was allowed inside the human sector of the station without approval. That was the rule. That was the safety line between peace and panic. The alien woman did not stop to explain. But she reached up and removed the outer layer of her armor, letting it fall to the floor with a quiet metallic sound. Under it, she wore lighter clothing meant for movement and travel. Elias did not understand what the action meant, but he could feel that it was important. "You must listen," she said, her voice calm but heavy with urgency. "My name is Vylera. My people are in danger. And now, so are you." Elias finally found his voice. "How did you get in here?" "There is no time for that," Vylera replied. "They are coming. The hunters of the Dark Fleet. They destroy everything they touch." The room felt smaller all of a sudden. Elias moved toward his communicator, but Vylera gently raised a hand. "Your station's defenses will not stop them. You must come with me." Elias shook his head. "I can't just leave. This is my post." Vylera stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. "In my world, when someone removes their outer armor in front of another, it is a sign of trust. It means I place my life in your hands." Elias did not know what to say. Before he could respond, the station's main alarm finally screamed to life. Red lights flashed across the walls. The calm silence was gone, replaced by the sound of rushing footsteps and distant voices calling out commands. Elias looked back at his screen. The sensors now showed it clearly. A group of unknown ships was approaching fast. "What are they?" he asked. Vylera's voice softened. "They are called the Ravagers. They do not rule. They do not trade. They only take." The station shook slightly as the first warning shot hit the outer shield. Elias felt his heart race, but he did not run. "Why me?" he asked. "I'm not a fighter." Vylera studied him for a long moment. "That is what makes you strong," she said. "My people have watched humans for many cycles. You are not the biggest. You are not the fastest. But when you are pushed to the edge, you stand instead of falling. Another impact rattled the station. Elias took a deep breath. His hands trembled, but his mind stayed clear. He reached for a small device on his desk and activated a secure channel. "This is Elias Carter of Outpost 9, he said. "We have unknown hostile ships approaching. I repeat, hostile ships." The response came back in broken pieces. Static. Confusion. Fear. The station's defense systems began to power up, but Elias knew they were not made for a full attack. They were built to warn, not to win. Valera stepped closer to the window and looked out at the growing shadows of the enemy ships. "My world is next," she said. "If they take this station, they will follow my trail." Elias turned toward her. "Then we don't let them take it." She looked surprised. "You will fight?" Elias swallowed. "I will stand." The station commander's voice echoed through the hall. "All personnel to defense positions. This is not a drill." Elias clipped a small emergency pack onto his belt. It held basic tools, a light weapon, and a communicator. He had trained for emergencies, but training and reality were very different things. Valera watched him with something like respect in her eyes. "On my world," she said, "there is a role called the shield bond. It is given to someone who chooses to protect another, even when they have nothing to gain." Elias gave a nervous smile. "Sounds like a lot of pressure." "It is," Valera replied, "but it changes the way the galaxy sees you." The station shook again, harder this time. A warning flashed on the wall. Outer shield at 70%. Elias felt fear, but he also felt something else rising inside him. A quiet strength he did not know he had. "Show me where you came from," he said. "If we survive this, I want to know who I'm protecting." Valera nodded. "Then you are already more than you believe." The lights flickered as the station's weapons fired into the dark. Outside, the stars vanished behind the shapes of enemy ships. Elias and Valera ran into the hallway, joining the humans rushing to their posts. No one questioned the alien beside him. There was no time. As they moved, Elias realized something important. This was not just about one station. It was not just about one world. This was about what it meant to be human in a galaxy that did not yet know what humans could become. And for the first time in his life, Elias felt ready to show them. The hallway shook as another blast struck the outer shield of the station. Red lights washed over the walls, making every face look like a moving shadow. Humans ran in every direction, calling out orders, checking screens, and sealing doors. Elias stayed close to Valera as they moved toward the central command room. He could hear the deep hum of the station's main power core working harder than ever before. They reached the command doors just as a group of security officers rushed inside. The station commander, a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes, stood at the center of the room, watching a large display of space outside. The dark shapes of the enemy ships floated like silent hunters around the outpost. "Report," the commander said. "Outer shield at 58%, an officer replied. "Weapons are holding them back, but they're circling. They're looking for a weak point." Elias stepped forward. "Commander, this is Valera. She says these ships are called the Ravagers. They don't stop once they choose a target." The commander studied Valera for a moment, then nodded. "Then we don't give them time to choose." Valera moved closer to the display. She raised her hand, and the screen shifted to show a new set of symbols and paths through space. "They hunt by pattern," she explained. "They watch how you move. How you defend. Then they strike where you grow tired." The room fell quiet. Elias felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. This was not just a fight. This was a test. "Can you help us outthink them?" the commander asked. Valera nodded. "If you trust me." The commander looked at Elias. He gave a small, steady nod in return. "Do it," the commander said. Valera began to guide the human crew. She pointed out blind spots in their defense field and suggested small changes in how their weapons fired. Instead of shooting in straight lines, they began to use wide arcs and timed bursts. Outside, the Ravager ships shifted. Some pulled back. Others rushed forward, caught by surprise. For the first time, the humans were not just reacting. They were leading. Elias moved to a side station and opened a long-range channel. He sent out a call to nearby human posts, not for rescue, but for eyes. "Watch the Ravagers," he said. "Learn how they move. Share everything one by one." Small signals came back. Other outposts had seen them before. Not many had survived an attack, but those that did had stories. Small details. Hidden paths. Elias collected it all and fed it into the station's system. The screen changed again. The Ravagers were no longer just shadows. They were shapes with habits. Valera watched with quiet wonder. "Your people share knowledge quickly," she said. "That is rare." Elias smiled slightly. "We learned the hard way that no one survives alone." A loud sound echoed through the station. A deep crack. "Shield at 40%, someone called out. The commander turned to Elias and Valera. "We need more than smart moves. We need space." Valera thought for a moment. "There is a debris field nearby. Old rocks. Broken ships. If you pull back into it, the Ravagers will follow. They will not expect you to use the chaos." Elias looked at the commander. "It's risky." The commander's eyes stayed on the screen. "Everything about this is risky," she gave the order. The station's engines fired, slow and heavy. The outpost began to move, drifting toward a cloud of broken stone and metal floating in the dark. Outside, the Ravager ships followed. The space around them turned into a maze. Human pilots, flying small defense ships, moved through the debris with careful skill. They used the rocks as cover, drawing the enemy into tight spaces. The Ravagers, built for open space and direct strikes, began to crash into the field. Sparks and broken pieces lit up the dark. Cheers broke out in the command room. But they did not last long. A new signal appeared on the screen. Bigger. Slower. Stronger. Valera's face went pale. "Their leadership," she whispered. "If that one reaches you, it will tear your station apart." The leadership moved forward like a moving wall, pushing debris aside. Elias felt the old fear rise again. Then he remembered something. "Commander," he said, "what's the power level of our jump drive?" The commander looked at him. "Low. We can't jump far." "Do we need to?" Elias asked. The room went quiet. He pulled up a map of the debris field. "If we make a short jump right into the middle of the thickest part, we can trap the leader ship. It's too big to follow." The commander stared at the screen, then back at Elias. "That could tear us apart too." Elias nodded. "But it gives us a chance." Valera stepped forward. "The Ravagers believe humans run when cornered. Show them they are wrong." The commander took a deep breath. "All hands, prepare for a short jump. Hold on to something." The lights dimmed. The station shook as power moved to the engines. Elias closed his eyes. The world twisted. Then it stopped. The station reappeared deep inside the debris field, surrounded by thick clouds of stone and broken metal. The leadership slowed, unable to follow without risking its own destruction. Smaller Ravager ships pulled back, confused. For a moment, there was silence. Then the human pilots struck. They moved like a single mind, using the narrow paths to hit the enemy from every side. The Ravagers, cut off from their leader, began to retreat. The screen filled with empty space as the last enemy ship vanished into the dark. The command room erupted in relief and quiet laughter. Some people sat down where they stood. Valera looked at Elias, her eyes shining. "You did not just stand," she said. "You changed the fight." Elias felt tired but proud. "We had help." Valera shook her head. "My people hide. Yours step forward." The commander approached them. "We can't stay here. If the Ravagers know this station can fight back, they'll bring more." Valera nodded. "Then my world must be warned and prepared." Elias knew what that meant. "You're asking us to come with you," he said. "Yes," Valera replied. "Not as guards, as allies." The commander looked at Elias. "You started this. What do you think?" Elias thought about Earth, about the stars, about the way humans had always reached out into the unknown, not because it was safe, but because it mattered. "I think," he said slowly, "this is how we show the galaxy who we are." The station began to turn, pointing its nose toward a distant light on the map. Valera's homeworld. Outside, the stars stretched like paths waiting to be walked. And somewhere in the dark, the Ravagers were watching, learning that humans were no longer just something to pass by. They were something to fear. The stars stretched into long lines of light as the human station made its jump toward Valera's homeworld. Inside, the mood was quiet, but heavy. Everyone knew the Ravagers would not forget what happened. They would come again, and next time, they would come with more strength. Elias stood near the main window, watching space flow past. Valera stood beside him, her arms crossed, her face calm but distant. "My world is called Lith," she said softly. "It is a place of wide skies and deep oceans. My people believe the stars are living things, that they watch us and remember our choices." Elias smiled. "Then I hope they remember this one." The jump ended. The station slowed, and the stars returned to normal. In front of them, a blue and green world filled the screen. Clouds wrapped around it like a soft blanket. But something was wrong. Small flashes of light dotted the space near the planet. Ships. Many ships. Valera's breath caught. "They are already here." The commander rushed to the center of the room. "Scan for friendlies." The system responded with a low tone. No friendly signals. Elias felt a cold wave move through him. "We're too late." "Not yet," Valera said. "My people hide in deep cities under the water and stone. They will not fight unless they believe there is hope." The station moved closer, staying just outside the range of the Ravager fleet. The enemy ships floated in a loose ring around the planet, like a net waiting to be pulled tight. Elias opened a wide broadcast channel. "This is Elias Carter of the Human Alliance," he said, his voice steady even as his hands shook. "To the people of Larath, you are not alone. We are here." There was no response at first. Then a faint signal appeared, weak but real. Valera stepped forward. "This is Valera," she said. "I stand with the humans. They came when we called." They did not run. The signal grew stronger. On the screen, a new image appeared. A group of alien leaders, their faces marked with the same living symbols as Valyra's. "We see you," one of them said, "but you are few. The Ravagers are many." Elias leaned closer to the screen. "We don't need to be many," he said. "We need to be together." The alien leaders exchanged looks. Before they could respond, a warning alarm sounded. "Ravager ship's moving," an officer called out. "They've seen us." The dark fleet began to close in. The commander turned to Elias. "Time to find out if your message worked." Elias opened another channel, this one reaching far beyond the system. He sent a call that he had hoped he would never need to use. "All human outposts, patrols, and ships," he said. "This is a call for aid. Lith is under threat. We are standing our ground." The silence that followed felt endless. Then, one by one, small lights appeared on the long-range scanner. Human signals. Cargo ships. Science vessels. Old patrol craft. Even a few private ships that had no duty to answer, but did anyway. They were coming. Valyra watched the screen in quiet awe. "You called the stars," she whispered. Elias shook his head. "We just reminded them who they are." The first Ravager ships opened fire. Bright beams of energy cut through space, striking the station's shield. The shield flared, holding, but just barely. Human ships began to arrive, jumping into the system in wide arcs. They did not form a tight line. Instead, they spread out, surrounding the Ravagers from different angles. The enemy fleet hesitated. They were used to fear, used to worlds that hid and ran. This was different. Elias moved between stations, helping where he could. He rerouted power. He passed messages. He kept people focused when panic tried to take hold. Valyra stood near the command center, her hands resting on the edge of the console. She spoke into a channel that reached her people below. "Look up," she said. "The humans are here. They did not come to save themselves. They came to save us." On the screen, the alien leaders watched as the human ships took position. One of them spoke softly, "Then we will not hide." A new set of signals rose from the planet's surface. Hidden defense platforms broke through the clouds, rising into space like ancient guardians waking from sleep. The Ravagers reacted too late. The battle began in full. Human ships moved fast and unpredictable. They used short jumps, quick turns, and sudden bursts of speed. They did not fight like a single army. They fought like many small minds working toward one goal. The Ravagers tried to push forward with their larger ships, but the combined fire of humans and Lyrath defenses slowed them down. Elias watched the screen as a human cargo ship, barely armed, flew straight toward a Ravager cruiser. At the last moment, it dropped a cloud of debris and jumped away. The cruiser slammed into the field, losing control. "Why would they do that?" Valyra asked. Elias smiled. "Because they could." The Ravager leadership moved forward, cutting through the chaos. Its weapons powered up, aiming straight at the station. The commander shouted orders, "All power to the shield." "We're not fast enough to dodge." The shield flared bright as the first blast hit. The station shook hard, and several systems went dark. Elias was thrown to the floor. He pushed himself up, his ears ringing. Valyra grabbed his arm. "If that ship fires again, you will fall." Elias looked at the screen. The leadership was charging up for another shot. He opened a channel to the human fleet. "That ship is the key," he said. "If it falls, the rest will run." There was a pause. Then a calm voice replied, "Understood." 3 human ships broke away from the main group. They were small, fast, and old. Their engines burned bright as they flew straight toward the leadership. The Ravagers fired at them, but the ships moved in sharp, sudden turns, dodging just enough to keep going. Elias held his breath. The 3 ships reached the leadership at the same time. They released everything they had, a focused strike, aimed at the ship's main power core. The explosion lit up space like a new star. When the light faded, the leadership was gone. The Ravager fleet froze. Then, slowly, they began to pull back. Cheers filled the station. People laughed. Some cried. Valera closed her eyes, her shoulders relaxing for the first time since Elias had met her. On the screen, the leaders of Lirath bowed their heads. "The stars will remember this," one of them said. "Humanity stood when the dark came." Elias felt something deep inside him settle, a feeling that this moment would not be forgotten. The battle was over. But the story of humans in the galaxy was just beginning. The silence after the battle felt strange. Space, which had been filled with light and sound, now looked calm again. The stars returned to their quiet places, as if nothing had happened. Inside the human station, people moved slowly, checking systems and helping each other. Some walls were burned, some lights still flickered, but the station was alive. Elias stood near the main window, watching the last Ravager ships fade into the dark. He felt tired in a way that went deeper than his body. He felt changed. Valera joined him. Her living symbols moved gently across her skin, slow and calm now. "My people are calling you," she said. "They want to see the one who stood for them." Elias gave a small laugh. "I didn't stand alone." Valera shook her head. "You were the first." The station moved closer to Lirath. As they entered the planet's sky, clouds parted to reveal wide blue oceans and long chains of green islands. Light from the sun danced on the water like scattered stars. A landing platform rose from the surface, smooth and shining. Human and Lirath ships landed side by side. Elias stepped onto the platform, feeling warm air brush against his face. The air smelled clean, like rain and salt. A group of Lirath leaders waited for them. Their bodies were marked with the same flowing symbols as Valera, but in deeper, brighter patterns that showed age and wisdom. One of them stepped forward. "You came when the dark came," the leader said. "You did not ask what you would gain. You only asked what you could protect." Elias felt his face grow warm. "That's what humans do," he said softly. The leader raised a hand, and a soft light formed in the air, shaping into a simple symbol. It looked like a star wrapped in a circle. "This is the mark of the Guardian," the leader said. "We give it to those who become part of our story." Valera stepped forward and placed the symbol in Elias's hands. "For us," she said, "you are not just a human. You are family." Elias did not know what to say. He simply held the symbol and nodded. Over the next few days, humans and Lirath worked together. They repaired defense systems. They shared food, stories, and knowledge. Engineers from Earth learned how Lirath technology shaped energy through natural fields. Lirath scholars listened as humans spoke about their long, difficult history of building and rebuilding. Elias walked through the floating cities that rose above the ocean. Buildings curved like waves, and light moved softly through clear walls. Children of Lirath swam through the air on small floating platforms, laughing as they passed by. He realized something then. This was what humanity had always searched for, even back on Earth. Not just new land. Not just new stars. New connections. One evening, Elias and Vylera stood on a high bridge that stretched over open water. The sky above them was filled with stars, brighter here than he had ever seen before. "The Ravagers will return someday," Elias said. "They don't forget." Vylera nodded. "Neither do we." She looked at him. "My people want to build something with yours. Not just a defense. A path, a way for others to join, so no world stands alone again." Elias thought about the many human ships that had answered his call. Ships that had no orders. No reason to come. Except one. "Humans will come," he said. "They always do when someone needs help." News of the battle spread across the galaxy. Traders, explorers, and distant worlds began to send messages. Some were curious. Some were careful. All of them were paying attention. The name humanity started to mean something new. Not just a species from a small blue world, but a promise. Back on the station, the commander received a long message from Earth. Leaders, scientists, and even ordinary people had seen the recordings of the battle. They had watched human ships stand between a dark fleet and a world that was not their own. The message ended with simple words: "We are proud." Elias felt his chest tighten when he heard it. A week later, a new structure began to take shape in space above Lirath. Humans and Lirath worked together to build it. It was not a weapon. It was a meeting place. A station where different worlds could come, speak, and stand together. They called it the Star Bridge. On the day it was completed, ships from many systems gathered around it. Some were small, some were large. All of them carried beings who had heard the story and wanted to see the place where it began. Elias stood at the center of the station, looking out at the crowd of ships. Vylera stood beside him. "You changed the stars," she said. Elias shook his head. "We just showed them who we are." A signal came in from a distant system. A world under threat, not by Ravagers, but by fear and division. The commander looked at Elias. "Looks like someone else needs a guardian." Elias smiled. Human ships began to turn, setting a course for the unknown once more. Vylera placed a hand over the mark of the guardian on Elias's chest. "Where you go, we will follow," she said. Elias looked out at the stars, endless and waiting. He knew now that humanity's place in the galaxy was not to rule, not to hide, but to stand. And as the first human ships jumped into the light, a new story spread across the stars. When the dark comes, humans answer.